Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time into Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca.
Oh, Rebecca.
Have you read this one?
Oh, many times. It's a classic.
Yeah, it's one of those books that
Mm.
even if you haven't read it, you've probably heard the title
Absolutely.
and maybe know a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to go on a spoiler-free deep dive here.
Okay.
So even if you haven't read it, you can listen to this and not worry
Good.
about having anything ruined for you.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's always struck me about Rebecca is that it's kind of a genre bender.
It is.
You've got
Yeah.
elements of Gothic romance in there and psychological suspense and good old-fashioned mystery.
Absolutely.
It's all kind of wrapped up in this one package.
Yeah, it's really a story that keeps you guessing until the very end.
Oh, for sure.
But it also, like you said, it has these other elements. Like it's got an exploration of identity and class and the kind of like the insidious nature of jealousy.
Yeah. It's got a lot going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we set the stage here
Okay.
and talk about kind of how the story unfolds.
Yeah.
It all starts with our narrator.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things is we never learn her name.
That's right.
It's just the narrator.
Right.
And she's a young woman, and she meets Maxime de Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet in Monte Carlo.
Ooh, very glamorous.
Very glamorous,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, already you've got this setting of,
Yeah.
wealth and kind of a playground for the rich and famous.
Exactly.
And their romance, is kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah, it moves very quickly.
It does. It moves very quickly.
Yeah.
And Maxime de Winter is very mysterious, right from the start.
Definitely, he's got that brooding hero quality.
Yeah. And there are these hints that he's haunted by his past.
Yes.
One of the lines from the book that always kind of stood out to me is when she's describing him.
She says he belonged in a heavily fortified city of the 15th century, a city of narrow cobbled streets. So it's like
So interesting.
she's picking up on this, this kind of almost ancient quality to him.
Yeah, like a depth of complexity.
Right. Like there's a lot more to him than meets the eye.
Definitely.
And of course that as we find out later, is definitely true.
Yeah.
But, before we get too far into Maxim,
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that journey from Monte Carlo to Manderley.
Yes.
Because, we start out in this very, sun-drenched, glamorous
The Riviera.
setting.
Yep.
And then they go to England.
Right, to the coast.
To the coast in Manderley, which is this, grand estate.
Yes.
But it's also...
It has this almost oppressive atmosphere.
It does, yeah. It's got this kind of...
Yeah, like a darkness hanging over it.
Yeah, this foreboding quality to it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if you remember that description of the driveway.
It's this long, winding driveway through the woods.
Yes, a maze of winding paths almost overgrown with weed and here and there a fallen tree.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost forbidding you to enter.
Right, and it's, even before she gets to the house.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting this sense that something's not quite right.
Yeah, that something's off.
Yeah, and then of course she meets the servants.
Right.
And Mrs. Danvers.
Oh, Mrs. Danvers.
Yeah, what can we say about Mrs. Danvers?
Well, she's the housekeeper.
She is.
But she's so much more than that.
She is.
She's devoted to the memory of Rebecca Maxim's deceased wife.
Yes.
And she really makes the narrator feel unwelcome.
Oh, absolutely.
In very subtle and not so subtle ways.
Yeah.
She's
right.
constantly comparing her to Rebecca.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the narrator is, she's young, she's naive.
Very much so.
And she's already feeling like an outsider.
Yeah, she's intimidated by the grandeur of Manderley.
Right. And then you've got
Mrs. Danvers.
Mrs. Danvers, who's just
lurking in the shadows.
Lurking, yeah, just kind of
making her feel small.
Undermining her at every turn.
Yeah.
Do you remember that quote?
Oh, there are so many good ones about Mrs. Danvers.
I know.
Which one are you thinking of?
The one where she's talking about Rebecca's feet.
Oh, yes. She had small feet, too, for her height. You wouldn't have thought it to look at her. Always immaculately dressed was my Mrs. De Winter.
It just sends chills down your spine.
It really does.
The way she talks about Rebecca.
It's like she's still alive.
It's like she's still there.
Like a ghost haunting Manderley.
Exactly.
And the narrator, the
Yeah.
new Mrs. De Winter, can't escape her presence.
Right. And so we've got this, this young, naive narrator.
Yeah.
Who's married this,
mysterious brooding man.
Mysterious brooding man.
Yeah.
And she's now living in this house that's
haunted by the past.
Haunted by the past.
Literally. You can feel the tension building already.
Oh, yeah. This is just the beginning
It is.
of the story. So buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. We're in for a wild ride.
We are. And, we've talked about the setting, the characters.
Right.
But one thing I think that really adds to the whole atmosphere of Rebecca
Yeah.
is du Maurier's use of symbolism.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Manderley itself,
Yes.
with its, grand facade and then all the secrets that are hidden beneath the surface,
Right.
it becomes this symbol for the illusions and the facades that the characters are constructing.
It's like the house itself is a character,
It is.
and it's almost like everyone is playing a role.
Yes, and they're trapped within those roles.
Right. And, you mentioned the secrets hidden beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And there's this constant sense of tension, right?
Like the truth is always threatening to break through.
Yeah, like something's about to happen.
Yeah, like a wave that's about to crash.
And speaking of waves,
Yes.
you can't talk about Rebecca without talking about the sea.
Oh, the sea is ever present.
Well, it is.
It's always there on the edges of the estate.
Yeah. And it's both beautiful and dangerous,
Yes.
just like Rebecca herself.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You know that scene where the narrator decides to wear one of Rebecca's dresses?
To the costume ball.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's like she's trying to step into Rebecca's shoes.
Yeah, she's trying on her identity.
Yeah, to embody her power and allure.
But it backfires horribly.
It does.
It's such a pivotal moment
It is.
because it shows just how naive the narrator is.
Right.
And how obsessed she's becoming with Rebecca.
Yeah, she's so desperate to please Maxim,
Yes.
to fit into his world,
Yeah.
that she loses herself.
She loses sight of who she is.
Right. And of course.
Mrs. Danvers is there
Oh, yeah.
to exploit that insecurity.
Every chance she gets.
Every chance she gets.
It's almost like Mrs. Danvers wants her to fail.
I think she does. I think she wants to prove that the narrator is not worthy to take Rebecca's place.
There's a real sense of cruelty there.
There is.
You know?
And it's interesting you use the word cruelty because one of the things that makes Rebecca so disturbing is that there aren't any easy answers
Right.
or moral absolutes.
It's not black and white.
It's not. Even
Yeah.
Mrs. Danvers,
Right.
with all of her, villainy,
Yeah.
she's still a complex character.
She is.
She elicits both pity and revulsion.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how her devotion to Rebecca
Yeah.
has become this unhealthy,
Unhealthy obsession.
yes, almost possessive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you see these glimpses of her vulnerability.
Yeah, her loneliness and that complexity extends to all the characters.
It does. Even Maxim.
Even Maxim.
He's presented as this, romantic hero.
Yeah, the brooding hero.
Right in the beginning.
But
Yeah.
as the story unfolds,
Yeah.
we see his flaws,
Yes.
his secrets,
His dark.
his capacity for darkness
I remember that moment when he finally confesses.
to killing Rebecca.
Yes, it was just like this
Oh,
verbal betrayal.
yeah.
It shattered the image I had of him.
It completely changes your perception of him.
It does. But at the same time, you can understand how he was driven to that point.
You can.
I mean, Rebecca was clearly manipulating him.
Yes, their relationship was so toxic.
Yeah, and that's what I love about du Maurier's writing,
What's that?
is that she doesn't shy away from the messiness of human relationships.
He doesn't.
She shows us that love can be destructive,
It can.
that even the most charming people
Yes,
can be capable of terrible things.
absolutely.
And, even after Maxim's confession,
Right.
we're still left with so many questions.
We are.
Like what really happened that night on the boat?
Yeah.
Was Maxim justified in what he did?
Right.
What was Rebecca really like?
Yeah.
Beneath that captivating facade.
We only get glimpses of her
Right.
through the eyes of the other characters.
And those unanswered questions
Yes.
are part of what makes Rebecca so haunting.
They linger in your mind.
They do.
Long after you finish the book.
It's a novel that stays with you,
It does.
and it makes you re-examine your own assumptions
About
about love,
Yes.
loyalty, the nature of truth.
Exactly.
It's definitely a book that I've thought about a lot over the years.
Me too.
And every time I reread it,
Yeah.
I discover something new.
You find new layers of meaning.
I do.
Yeah.
Some subtle nuance that I hadn't noticed before.
That's the sign of a great book.
It is.
When it can be reread and reinterpreted.
And Rebecca is definitely a great book.
It is a masterpiece.
So we've talked about the setting the characters,
Right.
the mystery.
Yes.
But there's one thing we haven't really touched on yet.
What's that?
The ending.
Oh,
Ending, that final scene with
like
Manderley.
engulfed in flames.
Yes.
Oh, so
It's
powerful.
so symbolic.
It is. It's like a cleansing ritual. Like
Yeah.
they're purging the past
Right.
to make way for a new beginning.
But then those last lines.
Yes.
And the ashes blew towards us with the salt wind from the sea.
It gives you chills.
It does.
It suggests that the past can never truly be escaped.
Rum.
It's always there
right.
on the horizon. It makes you wonder, can Maxim and the narrator ever really move on
Right.
with the shadow of Rebecca hanging over them?
Yeah. Can they ever truly escape the past?
Exactly. And I think that's the question
Yeah.
that du Maurier leaves us with.
Right.
It's not a neat and tidy ending.
No.
It's open to interpretation.
It is. And we've talked a lot about the setting, the characters,
Yeah.
the symbolism, the mystery, all those elements that make Rebecca so captivating.
Mm.
But I want to talk for a minute about du Maurier's writing itself.
Oh, yes. Her style is incredible.
It is. How would you describe it?
Well, one thing that stands out to me
Yeah.
is her use of imagery,
Yes.
especially when she's describing Manderley.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't just say, oh, it's a grand house or it's intimidating.
Right.
She uses these vivid sensory details.
She does.
You can almost smell the salty air,
Yeah.
feel the dampness coming from the walls,
Yeah.
hear the wind howling through the empty corridors.
It's so evocative.
It is.
It's like you're right there,
You're transported to Manderley.
experiencing it alongside the narrator.
Exactly. And it's not just the setting. She
No.
also uses really powerful language
Yeah.
to describe the character's emotions.
Especially the narrator's anxiety.
Yes, her growing paranoia.
Yeah, that scene where she finds Rebecca's boathouse.
Oh, that's a creepy one.
It is.
It's filled with all these reminders of Rebecca.
Yeah, and du Maurier's description of that space.
Yes.
With the close, musty smell.
The tang of seaweed.
And that faint, sweet scent of mimosa.
Ugh, it's almost suffocating.
It is. It's like the past is literally closing in on her.
Yeah, and that sense of claustrophobia
Right.
is heightened by her use of sentence structure.
Yes, those long, winding sentences.
They mirror the narrator's increasingly frantic thoughts.
It's like you can feel the tension building.
With every word.
And then there's the foreshadowing.
Oh, yes.
Du Maurier drops all these subtle hints and clues
Throughout the story.
that take on new meaning once you know the truth.
Right, like that little detail about Maxim hating phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
It seems insignificant at first.
Right. Becomes very important.
They-
There's
they-
those little details
Yeah,
that make Rebecca such a rewarding read.
they do.
The more you pay attention,
Yeah.
the more you realize how carefully crafted every element of the story is.
It's like she's playing a game with the reader,
Yeah.
challenging us to figure out the mystery,
Right.
but she's also asking us to think critically
How about
about the characters,
their motivation?
their motivations,
Yeah.
and to question our own assumptions
Mhm.
about guilt and innocence.
Right. And the nature of love and betrayal.
Exactly.
And I think that's ultimately what makes Rebecca such an enduring masterpiece.
I agree.
It works on so many levels.
It does.
It's a thrilling mystery.
Yes.
A haunting Gothic romance.
And a profound meditation on human nature.
It really has something for everyone.
It does no matter what kind of reader you are.
And it stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It lingers in your mind.
So if you're looking for a book
That will keep you up all night.
that will make you think,
That will stay with you.
then Rebecca is definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. We've just scratched the surface in this deep dive.
We have.
But hopefully we've given you a taste
Yeah.
of what makes this novel so special.
Now it's your turn to explore Manderley.
And unravel its secrets.
So let us know what you think.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Rebecca?
What resonated with you the most?
Head over to the comment section.
And share your insights and interpretations.
We love hearing from you.
We do. And if you enjoyed this deep dive,
Be sure to subscribe to Mystery Books to Read podcast.
for more discussions of your favorite novels,
And don't forget to like this episode and share it with your friends.
spread the word.
Until next time, happy reading.